Imagine for a moment, if you will, you're sitting in a vehicle, and all of a sudden, you see and hear the roar of the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex. And of course, you scream, because you've never seen anything like this before, nor did you ever think that you would ever witness it. Have you just had an out-of-body experience? No, you've actually just listened to the very first couple of seconds of the very first track that any of us ever heard from Mastodon as far as the recorded media is concerned, aside from EPs and demos. We're talking about Remission. We're talking about Mastodon. The discography has begun. A discography of modern proportion. However, it has classic or even legendary significance. Mastodon was a band that from the very first album, Remission, that I'm going to speak about right now, was already critically heralded and was seen as the wave of the future. Of course, this is almost godlike foresight, considering what they've become. However, where were they originally? Where they were originally was a blend of sludge metal and progressive metal that leaned a little bit more heavily toward the sludgy side. The progressive element was able to incorporate itself into various different tracks and in the complexity and the makeup, the body of the songs, however, was not necessarily a mainstay as we saw on latter albums such as Crack the Sky or The Hunter. This is something that was incorporated in leads and in moments and was to kind of bring the overall body of the work that Mastodon was able to perform to a greater state, almost to a higher state. Remission is an album that can be best described as thus. It is almost like the John the Baptist to the Jesus Christ that we would get with future albums. Now, I understand as a man that does not believe in a higher power, this may seem like a very odd metaphor. However, if stories and literature are any indicator to what metaphor of such variety could really, give us, I think it's quite perfect. Remission was the first official shot. The shot heard around the world, around the metal world that is, that Mastodon was able to give us. And they were able to resoundingly make it clear that they were a band that was going to be taking not only the United States, but the world and the universe, as we would learn with future releases, by storm. And this is also something that is very interesting, considering besides The Hunter, this album is considered to be the lone album that is not a concept album. Now, that is slightly true, slightly not. There's a little bit of a quadrology going on there, considering the elements of the universe, but we're not going to get into significant details, or insignificant details, depending on how you feel about it like that. We're here to talk about the music. The music that is encased within this is a elegant blend. Now, as I said before, it really leans a little bit more towards the sludgy side than to the prog side. However, whenever the prog side is allowed to shine forth, such as in tracks such as Old Nessie, especially the introduction to Old Nessie, that's whenever you really start to understand the capabilities that Mastodon had at their disposal, at their helm. It's something that made itself apparently clear in other tracks as well. However, Old Nessie kind of showed that there's that variety, that varietal concept that they had in their back pocket that they are going to be using in the future. This is a band that was not going to be happy just sticking to the formula that they were going to be using here on this album. This was a band that was willing to throw out different cards on the table and show you that they had a wide array, a wide arsenal to choose from. And they were going to choose carefully, they were going to choose wisely, but they were also going to choose the most brutal way. This is an album that's also, in one part, about healing. One member had lost his sister, very, very young girl, 14, 15 years old. And the title Remission, of course, is one that means forgiveness and understanding. An apt title, considering this is an album that was all about forgiveness and understanding for him. The ability for him to cope, to move on, and to become a better person. Musically and sonically, this album is a glorious, glorious work. This is an album, a debut album, in fact, that will be talked about for a very long period of time. This is one that's going to be ranking on many metal lists in the future for one of the best debuts that a metal band has perhaps ever had. It's a very, very good, strong, fierce release. One that's able to incorporate and blend various different items in the musical universe and combine them together to create the perfect beast. And the perfect beast, surprisingly enough, is in my opinion, probably one of their weaker albums, which perhaps can tell you the tone that this discography is going to take. If you're one of the fans that enjoys me being upset and angry and throwing things, well, this discography might not be the one for you. But if you're one that likes to hear about great music, then stick around, because Remission is just the tip of the iceberg. This album's majesty is not just in the backstory, it's not just in the fact that it's able to blend sludgy and progressive elements to form the perfect monster. No, instead it's the fact that everything seems to be extremely even balanced on this. This is not something that seems like anything needs to be overwhelmed toward one side or the other in order to really make the album itself sound a lot better than it truly is. It's something where the band's collective strength is in one another, and basically being a band. And that's something that's sometimes very difficult to find. Sometimes you hear in music these days where the mix is so geared towards one direction, perhaps the direction that might be the best part, that it sometimes can skew someone's logic and thoughts, thinking that perhaps this band is a lot better than what they truly are. Well, not with Mastodon. With Mastodon, instead, this is a band that is very, very talented in all positions. Now, there are differences in the latter albums than you're going to hear on this album. This album incorporates mainly harsh vocals. This album incorporates mainly heavy, sludgy guitar work. However, like I said, they were placing cards on the table, one by one by one. And as they appear on individual tracks, that started to become more vast. As though Mastodon was taking a cue from the universe itself. The universe is always expanding, and Mastodon seems to always be expanding. However, everything has to have a genesis point. Remission is this band's genesis point, and it's a damn good genesis point. It's a true Garden of Eden of an album. However, the garden is not the Garden of Eden without the presence of the snake, without the presence of the apple of knowledge, and without the presence of the epiphany of taking that first bite and learning all of the secrets of the universe. They're all gradually revealed in the music of this record, perhaps not in a literal form. However, the cards that Mastodon will be laying on the table in their future albums can all be traced back to this debut, can all be traced back to the songs encased within it, and now it can be seen as an adequate antiquity of where this band came from and how their sound was formed, where it got its genesis, and how it would develop into the hunter, the monster, the true ruler of metal, of which these guys have become today.